And Bitcoin, this is such an easy trade. And I think that's why people like almost don't want to do it, because it's such an easy thing of like, you buy Bitcoin and you just hold it.
Yeah, that's
Like
it.
it sounds too simple to be true.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Cause you remember like on our last talk, I was saying like, "Oh, I used to wake up and look for stocks to trade, and now I just go water my grass." And at first, when I started like operating like that, it almost felt like I wasn't doing enough, because when you're playing the little fiat games, you think you need to have 85 different businesses. You think you need to have, 85 different trades. You need to have all these things going on. But in reality, you're like, you create wealth, you create value for people, whether that's, creating a business or working for a business and helping them out. You create the value, then you store the value. And it's that simple. Create value, store value, create value, store value. And the fiat games kind of have you thinking you're not doing enough. Or what happens is people start thinking, I want the faster horse, right? So then they jump on to the next thing. So an analogy that I was thinking about is like if you tell someone, hey, I want to go from California to New York, right? Or for the European followers, if you want to go from Berlin to London, I want to get there the fastest, but the safest. We'll say the safest first and then the fastest second. And then the Bitcoiners are like, okay, take the orange car. And then you're like, I don't like the orange car. I'm gonna take the red car. You're like, bro, we're trying to give you the answer to get there the safest and the fastest. But some people want to go even faster, and they're willing to compromise on, the safety. So yeah, I think sometimes people get caught being short-sighted, but like you said, this is the easiest trade to make. And if you do want to achieve your goals of, buying this or buying that, or even just growing your wealth, so then you have less pressure on you from the world to go out and make more money, or the cost of living's catching up with you. Like we're telling you, the orange car is the way to go, but don't take our word for it. Go do the research, go do the knowledge, and I hope people are actually doing it.
It sometimes feels like people are kind of punishing themselves without really knowing it. Like they're thinking it's too easy. Like it has to be more complicated, and that's why they follow like all those like trading things and like all those like very complex systems and models. And then it's like, yeah, you just like, you get, of course you have to do your research. Like getting Bitcoin and understanding what Bitcoin is there is like not like something that you can do within an hour. You have to dig a little deeper. You have to like understand what's where Bitcoin is coming from. But from that moment onward, you're like, okay, yeah, I understood it. I know where it's going, and I just like hold it. And I think it's human nature is so hard to like just like do nothing and sit back, let the grass grow, and just watch it grow.
Yeah, yeah. What I like to think is once you get it and you understand and you free up your time from all the other things, like a dog chasing cars, you go work on the next aspect of your life. So if you use Bitcoin as like the foundation, like, hey, all my financial worries are going to be taken care of because I'm storing a good percentage of my wealth into Bitcoin, and that becomes the bottom layer. And then the next layer, like for me, was to go get my health right. Like, okay, I have this free time. I understand Bitcoin thoroughly. I don't spend as much time researching as I used to, because for the last 3 years, I'm like, this is all I'm learning about. And then eventually you catch on, you get it, you understand what's going on, you see the full playbook, and then you're like, all right, well, when I get paid, I'm buying more Bitcoin, and I'm not going to sell it. So that just becomes like the everyday part of your life, and it becomes, like a consistent or a constant in your world, like the same way you step on the ground, it's not going to sink. Like that's not something you think about. That's the way I feel about Bitcoin. So then that becomes the bottom layer of your life, and then you build the next layer. The next layer could be another interest that you have, like I said, for me it was, let me go get my health right now. So all the time that I would spend doing other things, man, Bitcoin just gave me the reassurance. And for the people watching this, I hope you guys take this message and also embrace the same thing. Once you've done your research, once you understand what's going on, then you free up all your time and you go solve the next problem in your life. Like this is a major problem, like your wealth, money, all that. That's a major topic in your life, but there are others. And Bitcoin allows you to free up your time to, spend more time with your family, or go get your health right, or maybe go learn something else that you're interested in.
I want to pull that tweet up. I found it really interesting, and it's a very simple idea that you posted here, but I think it's very powerful. And then you posted here: the wealthiest man in the world, I own Bitcoin. The founder of the largest asset management company in the world, I own Bitcoin. Founders of the largest hedge funds, I own Bitcoin. Co-founder of the largest company, I own Bitcoin. And then dude barely finished 12th grade. Is like, Bitcoin is a scam. And yeah, you also mentioned like Elon Musk, Larry Fink, Ray Dalio, Steve Wozniak, like all those people. And it's kind of fascinating for me. And that's also like how I see it, is like there's so many proofs that Bitcoin is a real thing, that Bitcoin is just right now getting started and really filling those pockets of money. And there are so many people saying like, oh, it's the scam, like it's bad for the environment, like all those crap things. First of all, like, how would you describe the kind of like situation that Bitcoin currently is in? And then it's like, where do you think is the dissonance coming from people that just still say really stupid stuff about Bitcoin, like Bitcoin is a scam?
So, all right. So I was thinking about that tweet because, Elon recently tweeted about Bitcoin. Every blue moon, he tweets about Bitcoin. And what I'm thinking is like, okay, Elon most realistically is going to be the world's first trillionaire, right? But at $500 billion, there's something bigger than him going on, and he knows it, right? Like so to us, if you're just a little individual person, then $500 billion seems like a lot of money, but he understands why we have the problems, right? Which is the Federal Reserve, right? You're like, we have these central banks, and they're creating these problems, even the commercial banks, creating these problems, and somebody who's that wealthy, who doesn't have to worry about this, still is able to spot it, or the people who co-founded the largest companies in the world or the largest hedge funds, they're still much smaller than the issue at hand, which is the central banks and commercial banks pumping the economy with money. So that's what I was thinking about when I tweeted that. I'm like, man, this is crazy, because you can have all the money in the world and it's still very obvious that you're not big enough to solve this problem. This is my son Seven, by the way. I think he wants to hang out with us. Say hey, Seven.
Hey.
So,
How are you doing?
he said, "How you doing?"
I'm still with my papa.
No, he said, "How are you doing?" Not what are you doing. How are you?
Nothing. I'm 6 years old.
Seven, calm down. How are you doing? Are you good? Are you not good?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. So, I think he's a little nervous, but yeah. So I was thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of crazy that the smartest people in the world, or some of the smartest people, some of the biggest founders, are like, hey, what's going on with with the economy? We need to look into something, and then they eventually arrive at Bitcoin. Now, why I think the average person doesn't is because they're not going to take any time to study, right? And it kind of sounds harsh in a way, but everything that you have or everything you don't have is exactly where you need to be. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're in a good position because you studied Bitcoin, you deserve it. And if you're not, and you're just going to sit back and blame everything and everybody, then you kind of deserve it too, So I think it's like intellectually lazy to just go, oh, this is a scam. Like, okay, explain to me how it works. You can't, but it's a scam, right? So I think there's a lot of intellectually lazy people out there who don't want it to be true, because then that will kind of justify them missing out on where they think they missed out on the action, right? So I think that's kind of where my head was when I was tweeting that. And I'm like, man, there's so many people that sit in my comments and say, oh, like, you got lucky, or this is a scam, and I'm like, you can't explain to me how this works, but somebody has to make the fries. That's the way the economy works. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to make the fries, bro. It's gonna be you, because you don't want to understand this thing. You don't want to open a book. So be it.
And this is, I mean, this goes way beyond Bitcoin, where I'm thinking like, why are most people in the line where most people are, and then just a few people are stepping outside, and they're saying like, oh, they're questioning the mainstream narrative. They're questioning like, oh, like, why do I have to like go this specific route? Why can I not do my own company? Why can I not like invest in Bitcoin? Why can I not do all those different things that are kind of seen as bad from the mainstream media? And like, for me, it was always so clear But then when I look into like my friend circle, even my friend circle is kind of entrepreneurial, but like a little bit outside of like the second order friends, I like to call them, or like just like associates that like are kind of associated to me. I'm like, wow, like they have a very different worldview, and their worldview is basically what they have been told. And then I'm like, how can you just take something for granted someone else is telling you? And the funny thing that always happens if someone is like, oh, like Bitcoin is a scam, or like Bitcoin is so bad for the environment, if you ask them 2 or 3 questions, they completely blank out because they haven't done their own research. So their opinion is very weak. And so they very fast come to the conclusion, oh, like, I don't have any clue. And then they panic and like they get emotional and like all of that. But it's mind-bending for me, like why people don't go deeper, why don't people actually question their like things. And I mean, with Wealth Squad and with like wealth in general, and with making companies and all of that, it's like it goes, it's not just a Bitcoin thing. It's with everything that makes you successful in life, I guess.
Yeah. I think a part of it, one, like as a Bitcoiner, I actually I don't value everyone's opinion the same. Like Marcus Aurelius has this quote. It's like the opinion of 10,000 men means nothing if they don't understand the subject, or something like that. Right. And you're like, what ends up happening is there's a bunch of people in your ear trying to like give your opinions. And you're like, well, you haven't done the work. Right. And I think that's what happens in a lot of people's friend circles, is that your friend that you grew up might give you a quick opinion, and you go, well, this guy thinks this and I think he's pretty smart, so let me just take his word for it. But the thing is, you have to peel back the layers yourself. Like you have to peel back the layers yourself. And, I say pretty like commonly, like, don't take my word for any of this stuff. Like even when I read Bitcoin books, I go look up the information. I'm like, okay, is this true? Is this right? Like even if they source it, and you just start peeling back layers and peeling back layers. But I think in general, there's always going to be people who just, it's just laziness. It's intellectual laziness. That's what it is, man. Some people can't fold their clothes in their house. Some people just don't want to learn anything. It's intellectual laziness. But the sad part is, this is the solution. Bitcoin is this humongous ride to safety, right? And the more you ignore it, the further away that boat gets. So imagine Bitcoin's this humongous boat, and you're like, hey, this is taking us to safety. If you ignore the boat, it gets further away from you, which means it gets harder for you to catch up to the boat, right? So in like financial terms, let's say there's a family out there watching this that they have a combined income of $100,000 a year, and they're able to put $20,000 away into investments. And our last episode, Bitcoin was $65,000. So that would be, if Bitcoin stayed flat at that rate, that would be 3 years of their income just to get to the boat, right? But let's say they were ignoring the boat, and now 12 months later, it's at we're floating between 110 and 120. That's 6 years of income now, right? So the moment that you realize, like, hey, this is what's going on, the boat is much further, right? So I think that like kind of hurts people a lot. And another thing is, while you're on this gigantic, beautiful, peaceful boat, there are people who jump off the boat to go play on jet skis, and those are the altcoin people. Those are the people who want to, go in and out of positions, trade, do all these things. And from the boat, it looks fun. You're like, oh, these people are making money very fast. They have the faster horse. But what happens when the jet ski runs out of water and the boat's further away? So it's almost like, hey, if you do the knowledge, you'll realize this is the ride to safety, right? So how we were saying when this podcast started, that if Bitcoin is now at 110, 120,000, like, hey, that means it's getting harder for you to buy it. That means your flight to safety is just getting further and further and further away from you. And mainly it's because, people are too lazy to acknowledge it. But what's going to happen is, when the moment clicks that you're like, whoa, I should have been looked into this, or maybe I should have been looked into central banking, or maybe I should have been looked into why gold bugs are gold bugs. Like you could kind of start in different areas, and you're going to end up with the same conclusion, which is Bitcoin. But that boat is going to be so far, man. And it's intellectual laziness, man. I really wish people would just open a book.
I love that comparison. Like, it's really, really cool. I always make the comparison that Bitcoin kind of came from being a speedboat to an aircraft carrier, but extending it to now it's an aircraft carrier. It's like a huge boat where you can be on. It's super safe. And then people are jumping off that secure aircraft carrier just because the jet ski looks cooler.
Yep.
And they
Yeah, they
don't
see.
realize that.
Yep. Yep. And you see this on social media a lot, especially like right after our last interview, October 2024, a lot of meme coins. This is when the whole meme coin thing got like hot, right? And me as a Bitcoiner, I'm telling people, hey, stay away from that, stay away from that, stay away from that. But imagine if someone posts that they put $200 into this thing and now it's worth $10,000. And I'm over here like, hey, just put your Bitcoin in, your $200 in a Bitcoin and just keep that going. The casino looks way more fun, right? So what ends up happening is people are like, oh, okay, well, let me do that. If you turn $300 into 10 grand, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is you're not going to see when that 10 grand or 7 grand, whatever number I said, goes back down to zero. They're not going to post it. You know, it's like you get hot and then you fall off and then people just stay quiet about all their losses. So when the meme coin thing happened right after our last episode, and you're like, that's people playing on the jet skis. You know what I mean? Like, we have the safest, fastest route. So if you say you want to go where you say you want to go, take the orange car, take the orange boat. But that people get distracted with that. I'm starting to think that people are getting distracted with Bitcoin treasury companies too, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, I also think so. Like, I see, weirdly enough, a lot of different comparisons with altcoins and treasury companies, even though there are a lot of differences. Obviously,
Yep.
like, you cannot compare like a strategy to an Ethereum, like, not at all.
Yeah.
But like, just from the community and from the vibe, like, I get a lot of the similar things from that, even though like it's obviously a different thing. But what do you mean with like getting distracted by them?
So you have the major treasury companies, right? Like your MicroStrategies, you know, your Meta Planets. Those two companies specifically are positioned very uniquely, right? Where they can raise capital, buy more Bitcoin. But I think what ends up happening is you see some small companies say, hey, we're going to hold Bitcoin on our balance sheet, and then the stock shoots up and then nothing happens. So people are like, oh, well, this is BS, or they speculate on GameStop or whatever the case is, and then it shoots up. And then I think the people who call themselves Bitcoiner, if you want to speculate, I'm not telling you not to speculate, but if you want to speculate, you have to understand, you have to see these things through. You know, so if a company announces something and then the stock doesn't move for 3 months and you're done. So it's not necessarily that the treasury companies are the meme coins. It's that the Bitcoiners are treating them like they're the meme coins. You know, like, hey, if this doesn't move, I'm out. Or MicroStrategy went down $100, I'm out. And you're like, hey, man, like, this is, I think you want the gains from the circus over here, you know? I also think another part of this whole treasury thing is I don't think that a lot of these companies pivoting into Bitcoin actually understand Bitcoin. I think that they understand that there's opportunity for a lot of people with a lot of Bitcoin or a lot of wealth to buy their stock.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.